What's up, YouTube? Flan Speaks back for another video. Here we go with this stuff, man. This is typically what happens, during the basketball season, especially with these media talking heads. Few of them are actually experts. They consider this guy in the middle, Chris Broussard, to be an expert. He's not. I mean, he's just a guy that's watching just like you and I can watch, and he's opining. I mean, sometimes, a guy like him can get a job, where he's a beat writer, where he's writing for a particular team. He gets to follow, he gets to talk to some guys. I mean, that stuff they might get, some backward inside stories, but, backstage inside stories. But really, when it comes to knowing the nuts and bolts of basketball, there's nothing really special about this guy. Well, anyway, as is always, you have overreaction next day to a regular season game between the Philadelphia 76ers and the Brooklyn Nets. And as we know, the Nets went out there, man, and put on a show. And the Sixers got shellacked. And in my opinion, it's a good thing for them. But anyway, they're going to talk about it, man. I'm going to chime in.
Broussard. Good morning, Chris. Happy Friday. Got to ask you, how much faith did you gain in the Nets versus lose in the Sixers last night?
Well, significant amounts on both sides. I gained some faith in the Nets, and I lost some faith in Philadelphia. And I usually wouldn't put much stock into one regular season game, but this was...
All right, but you are putting stock in the regular season game, so let's not try to say I usually wouldn't. Like, if the Sixers won, then you wouldn't, right? That's the way that works.
More than one regular season game. This was a grudge match. This was like a playoff atmosphere because of everything surrounding Ben Simmons. And Philadelphia's players had more incentive to embarrass the Nets and Ben Simmons than I think Brooklyn's players had to protect Simmons.
I completely, 100% utterly disagree with that. The idea that to say that the Philadelphia 76ers players had more of an incentive to embarrass Ben Simmons for what? Why would the Philadelphia 76ers players want to embarrass Ben Simmons? Number one, the Philadelphia 76ers players without Ben Simmons, listen, remind you, in the beginning of the season, before the James Harden trade, the Philadelphia 76ers went off to they were first seed in the East. First seed, all right? Then COVID stuff started happening. Joel Embiid misses like 14 games or something like that. Seth Curry's missing time. All these guys are missing time. Tobias Harris missed God who knows how many games. Maxey missed some games. And then the Sixers still fell. Somehow hung around a 4th, 5th, 6th seed at certain points. But they were never too much out of it. But for the most part, they were a competitive team all season. The Nets, on the other hand, though early on they actually spent some time in the number 1 seed, they dealt with the injuries to Kevin Durant. They dealt with the Kyrie Irving situation. All right, James Harden was up there, and Kyrie Irving, they were part of like an 11-game losing streak or something like that, right? What happened with Brooklyn led to them actually falling to like 7th, 8th place, to the point where now they were prior to this game, they were at 500. They were 33-33 going into the game. All right, so right there, just from the standpoint of the records, the Sixers being 40-25 and being in 2nd place in the East, and the Nets being 34-33, fighting for their playoff lives. If you want to look for why the intensity is there, that's the reason why the Nets were more intense. The Nets had more incentive to win the game than the Sixers. I don't care about how much you want to talk about Ben Simmons. The Sixers don't care about Ben Simmons right now. They feel they have a better situation with James Harden. The team is happy. The stadium, like the fans are happy, right? The Ben Simmons thing is completely overblown. Like most of us didn't want him on the team. Do you understand that there were like fans that wanted him traded for guys like Malcolm Brogdon and guys like Tyrese Halliburton? There were people who would have accepted these trades. I know someone who would have taken John Collins, right? And Bogdan Bogdanovic, and players like that. I wouldn't have done that, but I know people who would. That's how much Sixers fans want him gone. Like it's not understood properly. No, the Nets had every incentive to want to beat the Sixers, right? You also had guys like Seth Curry on their team. Remember, we traded 3 players. They traded 1. Well, they traded 2. But Millsap, he doesn't even get time. But they had Seth Curry, who has a chip on his shoulder. Seth Curry is Doc Rivers' son-in-law. So that's even deeper, okay? You got Andre Drummond, who was just traded, who has an issue because he was on a good team. Most of these guys didn't want to leave, all right? Now, Ben Simmons, what do you mean, like, the Sixers have an incentive to embarrass him? They don't care. You think they thinking about some damn Ben Simmons when they playing? Come on, man.
Play for Simmons, and yet it was the Nets who were more motivated, in my view, by what was going on with Ben Simmons.
Get the fuck out of here. The Nets did not go out there trying to defend no damn Ben Simmons. That wasn't what this was about. The Nets are literally playing for their playoff lives. They can't afford to keep losing games. That's really what happened. Let's just keep it real. Keep it 100, man. These guys love this stupid drama.
I just thought that the Nets showed, a lot of heart and a lot of toughness that we don't typically associate with them. They're kind of viewed as a finesse.
It's called fighting for your playoff lives.
Team. They're a smaller team. KD and Kyrie off the court can be kind of quirky. Obviously Kyrie, but KD with the burner accounts and going at people on social media and all that. You don't think of them as that mentally tough necessarily. But last night, they took the fight to the Sixers.
Wow, that was a serious insult to them. To say that someone like Kevin Durant, who's been a multi-time, all-star, who actually has 2 rings, though they were some of the easiest rings anyone can ever get. They didn't say that was me who said it, against a Cavalier team that's severely undermanned, right? But anyway, and Kyrie Irving, who is one of the most clutch players in the league. I mean, he proved that in Game 7 against Golden State. Okay, to say they're not mentally tough, or to say you don't see them as mentally tough, is a serious insult.
And I thought they showed an incredible degree of heart. I love KD going at it with Joel Embiid, getting in his face, not backing down. We know those two have had a history of talking. And really, more than anything, I love Kyrie Irving taking on the challenge of guarding James Harden. And you don't typically see that in today's game, even if guys play the same position, that they'll guard the best perimeter guy will guard the best perimeter guy, and vice versa. And Kyrie, who's 3 inches smaller than Harden, not a great defender, some would say not even a good defender.
I disagree with that. Kyrie Irving actually, when engaged and when he wants, is a decent on-the-ball defender. Look at the games where he actually stuck Seth Curry. When he was one-on-one with him without the help and the aid of screens, he actually would do well.
He wanted Harden. Like, that was clearly personal. He was picking Harden up at times full court, and it looked like Kyrie wanted the fight, and Harden didn't. And so the Philadelphia, Harden and otherwise, was the opposite of what the Nets were. James Harden going 3 for 17 was not a coincidence. It was not a bad night. It was not, just one of those things that can happen even to great players. It's a pattern. And I said on First Things First, right after the trade was made, Philadelphia won't win a championship with Harden and Embiid. And it was because I was concerned about how Harden handles tough times. Whether it's an elimination playoff game, a big playoff game, or big game period, or when times get tough, when there's adversity on your team, we've seen him twice flee.
Damn, this nigga talking crazy. All right. First of all, this is not a big game. Now, I understand how you might think it is because the media hypes it up as Brooklyn playing Philadelphia. A big game is either a game that is going to help to get you in the playoffs or a playoff game. That's really a big game. A big game is not a random regular season game during the season, no matter how much you try to hype it up. right? Like the Sixers losing this game literally does not, unless somehow it leads to them losing faith in themselves. You know, I mean, it won't happen because it isn't like the first time they lost to Brooklyn. And it isn't like the first time we ever beat Brooklyn. You see what I mean? So that's just not likely to be the case. This is not a big game. Now, for Brooklyn, it was a big game because they were the 500 team. All right, just say James Harden doesn't come up in big games. I mean, this is like a narrative we hear a lot of times, though they don't really tell the whole story with what's happened. I mean, has he had bad games in the playoffs? Sure, right? But I can recall LeBron James having bad games in the playoffs, okay? With Dwayne Wade and with Chris Bosh. But once he was in a better situation, once you put him with some teammates and stuff like that, he got out of it. James Harden, for the most part in his career, ran into teams he just simply couldn't beat. I mean, there's a difference.
And being a leader, showing perseverance and fortitude, he has fled. And I softened on that over the first 5 games because he looked so great. He looked so smooth. He looked like he was back to the old James Harden. But this was their...
But he had a bad game, so we're going to negate all that? Okay.
First kind of tough test, and he failed miserably. So I don't have nearly as much faith now. I still want to, the Nets, obviously, there's still questions. Ben Simmons, Kyrie, is he ever going to be able to play home games? So that's their challenge. But Philadelphia, I'm not so sure they've got the toughness, so particularly with Harden, to win a championship.
Yeah, this is stupid. All right. What's happening with the Sixers over the last 6 games since James Harden has come? Okay, I've explained this in previous videos. Okay, the 76ers here, this particular version of the Sixers is nowhere near a complete and finished product. They have been winning, however, due to the fact that they just have the talent to beat most teams most nights, just with Embiid scoring and Harden scoring, Maxey scoring, Tobias scoring, and they play good defense. So they're able to just win, despite the fact that their first 2 games with Minnesota and the Knicks, they were running only 3 different plays in 3 sets. They just simply haven't had the practice time in to do that. Now, 6 games in, perhaps they added a few more sets. Okay, maybe they added a few more plays, but they're not tightly knit as a cohesive unit yet. What we're looking for is by playoffs, they'll be off and running and being the best version of themselves. Right now, the Sixers are nowhere near the best version of themselves. They're not playing great basketball, despite the fact they're scoring 125. They scored 130 in a couple of games. They're doing that just off of pure talent, okay? Last night's loss became as a result of being exposed for not really having a tight offense. To beat those higher echelon teams, it's not going to be about, Embiid just go out there and performing and Harden going out there and performing and just doing their own thing. It's going to be about playing together as a cohesive unit. The 76ers last night didn't even have 20 assists as a team, and that's unlike this particular team. Before Harden came, there was more ball movement. There was more swinging of the ball. Right, this team would be in the area of 25 to 30 assists a night. And as for Brooklyn, I'm not saying it wasn't an aberration in that, but this Brooklyn you saw is them at their apex. It was like one of those situations where they were like, all right, it's game 7 time for them. Kevin Durant starts off 7 of 8 from the field. But please, I hope you don't understand. I hope you guys aren't out there believing that that's going to just keep happening. Seth Curry is not going to play like that very often. Okay, so enjoy it, right? I've watched Seth Curry for a whole season with the Sixers. He's either going to get hurt at some point, or he's just not going to keep that up. All right, he's had games like that. He's hyped up. He's trying to prove something. He did his thing. Good for him. I love Seth Curry, man. But still, I would still trade him again for James Harden. I will still do that again. And Kyrie and KD they were what they were, man. But I'm telling you, what happens in a series is you can have a game like that where one team blows the other out. Next game, man, there's adjustments made. right? It's not going to be, it's just not, that was not a true picture of who's really who and what team is really what team. Sixers just still have to just stay the course, work on what you're working on, and still improve as a team. And they realize that, man. Back when the Sixers beat, even when we beat the Cavs and we beat the Timberwolves and all of them, Doc Rivers and all of them were saying that we still have a long way to go as a unit in terms of what we're trying to run and accomplish right now. They're just doing things on the fly and winning just off of sheer talent right now. Anyone who knows basketball knows that's what's happening, right? But this guy, he's looking at it like, I'm losing faith because they lost. Well, you shouldn't have had as much faith as you had in the beginning because you should know what the fuck you're looking at. You should know that you're looking at a team that isn't really playing like as well as they could as a unit, but are in fact just getting over because they have certain stars. You should be able to tell the difference.
Don't you? Wait a second. Before you go, I just want to compliment Chris Broussard. That was a beautiful breakdown. Go.
Yeah, because your favorite lay right his head because you love the Brooklyn Nets. You think you slick. But does anybody, so in other words, we should expect to see Ben Simmons in an LV sweater. That's the Virgil last lineup. So we should expect him to see him moving forward on the sidelines, not on the court. Don't you want to see what this team looks like with him on the court before you make the assessment that you just made, Chris?
Well, I didn't predict the championship. I just said if they're close to whole, they look like they can play with anybody in the league. And you add him in. I do want to see him because there's going to be a little bit of a challenge is that he's a half-court player who can't shoot.
Thank you.
And so you're going to have to get used to that. But he does fit. We know the other things he brings, transition, pushing the ball, defense. So I'm just saying they rose in my eyes. I love the attitudes that Kyrie and KD had, and I don't think Ben Simmons is going to be able to take away from that when he gets back. But he's a question mark in some ways, obviously.
Well, I just thought the thing was Brooklyn got out to a great start. The threes started falling for them. KD, you can't let KD and Kyrie start cooking. And then Seth Curry's like, well, hey, I'm a chef too. You know, I forget about my brother. He the big chef. I'm little chef. So let me get in the kitchen. Let me start throwing up threes. And they started going in. Skip, what was the guy? He started making threes. The glue guy for them, James Johnson. Yeah. He started making threes, blocking shots, Drummond blocking shots. He's blocking shots. Right. They did a great job of getting the ball out of Harding hands.
The game, I'm gonna tell you why the game was an aberration. You know, not to just stop Shannon real quick, but honestly, the Brooklyn Nets had 13 blocks. Come on, man. They had 15 blocks and 13 steals. Bro, anyone who knows the Nets, that's not even the Nets. That's not even who they are. That was a desperate team. Okay? It was uncharacteristic game. Sixers turned the ball over 18 times. The Nets forced that. That's not even their game, dude. You know, they were stealing dribble handoffs from the Sixers. Like, you're talking about an offense that just has to get itself together, man.
Without fouling him.
Yep.
They did a great job of trapping him. They did not let James Harden play one-on-one, Skip. And the moment he started to play one-on-one, here came the double team. They started trapping him. They started blitzing him. Like, nah, you giving the ball.
Good observation, Shannon. That's very true. Though Kyrie Irving did do a good job, but there was a lot of helps from trapping and doubling. You know, that's undeniable.
And he didn't shoot the ball well. But Joel Embiid didn't play well either now. Joel Embiid, I'm looking at his number. He was 5 of 17. Tyrese Maxey, who had played well, Chris, since the addition of James Harden. He played awful. He only had 4 points. So James Harden and Tyrese Maxey had a combined 15 points between the two of them, when they were normally giving you somewhere between 45 and 50. I don't believe they played that bad again. So I don't want to take anything away from Brooklyn.
Yeah, I don't either.
But by the same token, I don't believe Philly played this bad again. Joel Embiid will play better. James Harden is not going to go 3 for 17 again. The thing I love about sports, and I say this all the time, he gets an opportunity to update his resume. At some point in time, he going to make y'all believe it. You don't believe in him, Chris, and you definitely don't believe in him.
Never have.
Don't worry about it. You will. You didn't believe in Matthew Stafford, but he made you a believer.
Okay, and
well, Skip is selective who he believes in. He believes in Ben Simmons, but, you know, he doesn't believe in LeBron James, Luka Doncic, Giannis, and, you know, players like that. So he's just weird, you know, and I think it's all just about some sort of motive. There's some weird motive that Skip has.
Carvana's had a lot of firsts. 100% on.
James has given you what evidence that he will come up big in big moments?
He's going to show you. He got to show you.
So your conclusion is, if I put you on a scale of 1 to 10 of how much stock you put in what you saw last night, you're saying it's a 1, right?
I will say about Harden, is Harden needs to, number one, incorporate more of a mid-range game as well. Because when you're a person that scores in 3 ways, people, you become easier to defend. He needs to do that. And he also needs to just stop looking for foul calls and just look to score.
I'm saying, Skip, the needle didn't move.
You put the game in the hands of the officials, you hurt yourself.
For me either way. One team played extremely well, but we know what Brooklyn's capable of doing. The Sixers had their worst game since James Harden has been there. I don't believe that. So you think they played this bad again? You think in the same game, Joel Embiid go 5 of 17 and James Harden go 3 for 17?
Okay, I'm with Chris on this, and both of us have covered this league for a long, long time. Usually, some regular season game, even this late in the season, you on stock, you would give it a 1.
Right.
But I'm giving it a 9, and I think Chris.
Because your team won.
You're giving it a 9 because it's Brooklyn. He's so full of shit.
No, because my team proved what I've been trying to tell you from the start, that they won this trade by the point margin they won this game by. They won the trade by 29 points. They showed you on full display. They put the East on notice last night because they got 3 players, 3 starters out of this trade, and Big Drum had 3 blocks last night and did a pretty good job of at least getting in Joel Embiid's way.
Yeah.
Am I right about that?
No, he didn't. Joel Embiid scored fucking 19 points in the first quarter. What are you talking about?
And you thought Seth Curry was a difference maker last night because he scored 24 and made 4 threes. Right. And he is highly capable of doing that on a nightly basis.
That is a fucking lie. Seth Curry averages 16 points a game. Seth Curry will do these. He will do 25 one night. He would come around. I'll guarantee you, the next game they play the Knicks, Seth Curry would not score more than 10 points.
Ben Simmons obviously hasn't played 1 dribble yet. At least he got his feet wet sitting on the bench last night. At least he went out there and put on his Nets garb before the game and got booed and chanted out, shoot the ball, shoot the ball.
Yeah, all he did was pass to Patty Mills.
Okay, pass to Patty Mills. And don't underestimate the value of Patty Mills to Ben Simmons. He's like his big
Patty Mills and Goran Dragic are good pieces off the bench. That I will agree to.
brother from Australia, right? Yeah. It's the perfect fit because exactly what this team is missing is Ben Simmons on defense, and it's to Chris's.
Ben Simmons is going to hurt their offense. I guess he'll help on defense, but he's going to hurt their offense.
Point. Nobody is faster with the basketball going up court than 6'10" Ben Simmons.
Yeah, that's bullshit. De'Aaron Fox is faster, and Tyrese Maxey's faster.
And he's not LeBron as a passer, but he's a top 10 passer in this league. You don't think he...
Ben Simmons is not a top 10 passer in the league. Ben Simmons is a top 15, top 20 passer.
Facilitate the 2 best combined scorers that you have in this league, and KD and Kyrie?
Well, question for both of you guys. Do you believe that this is the Nets defense? You believe we're going to see 15 blocks on a nightly basis? You believe we're going to see 13 steals?
Are they not?
Thank you very much, Shannon.
Capable?
No, they're not capable of doing that.
Really?
That'll be an NBA record. 15 blocks, Chris. They had 11 steals.
I guess my eyes deceived me.
Not that, but obviously their defense was strong last night. And if Simmons does come...
Yeah, their defense was strong because that team was 500, and they're not sure if they're going to make the playoffs. They have to go hard. They're going to do this. This is what they're going to do.
Back, it will get better. So, yeah, I think because when you got KD and Kyrie there playing well, and Seth Curry, now a Bruce Brown, these guys can just focus on...
Seth Curry, man, this whole overrated. I never heard this stuff about Seth Curry when he was with the Sixers. I swear to God, when Seth Curry was with us, I never heard such high praise for Seth Curry. This blows my mind.
Defense, James Johnson, guys like that. So, Shannon, here's what I want to throw at you.
Okay.
Because I have been a believer. I've been a big fan of James Harden.
Yeah.
Like, I think he's one of the handful of guys ever that is all-time elite in scoring and all-time elite in playmaking. Like, I love him as a playmaker as well as a scorer. But come on, like he can go 3 for 17 again.
Yes.
In Game 7 against Milwaukee, he went 5 for 17. We've seen him go 2 for 11. Skip knows that against the Spurs. In Game 6, no Kawhi Leonard.
No Tony
We've seen
Parker.
him, so it's too many times that he's had a big game here or there, when the chips are down, a good playoff game. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for admitting that. But every guy that has not won a title yet has had bad playoff games. That's just the way it works. You haven't won a title. Why? Well, let's point to the bad game that you had. You lost that series.
But more often than not, in big games, he just ain't the same. And it doesn't look like it's just, missing shots. It's way more turnovers than usual, even though he's already a high turnover guy.
Yep.
And it's just going, like I said, just shooting horribly. He's 1-7 in his last 8 elimination games, shooting like 24% from 3 and below 40% overall. So doesn't that concern you a bit?
It does, especially, if you tell me to Joel Embiid is not going to be the Joel Embiid that Skip had in front of the MVP table. If you tell me he's not going to play well, and I'm not going to get very much from Tyrese Maxey, because I thought Tyrese Maxey had taken the next step. He had played really well even before James Harden got there. He had taken his game to another level once James Harden had gotten there. I know James Harden is capable of having a bad game. Yes, because they officiate the games different. They don't give you those little ticky-tack fouls that they give you in the regular season. They don't call those in the playoffs. You basically got to draw blood before you get those foul calls, and that's what he doesn't get. So he's not going to the free throw line 20 times like he does in the regular season. But if Joe is what you Skip Bayless the end.
All right, well, pretty much that's the end of this here clip that he had there. With Shane was getting heavy, making some good points. James Harden does have to work on certain aspects of his game. Just when you go into these games, just score. The hell with the getting the foul shot, and that would help if he would implement more of a mid-range game. It doesn't have to be all threes or foul line. Well, anyway, man, as we see these people, man, this is what they do. They're gonna overreact. And that's just what I had to say on that, man. I'm not one of these Sixers fans that, is going to put out all these videos when we win and disappear when we losing. No, I'm going to be right here, man. Don't even worry about it. Till next time, when we destroy, I think we got Denver next. I'm out.